Okay, well, sorry about the lighting. I look green and blurry, but that's as good as it's going to get in this setting. I hid all of the clutter, so you should be happy about that at least. And the fact that I'm actually doing this again, I know it's been quite a while. I don't know if anybody's really waiting for me to put anything out. But here I am with no notes at all this time, no keywords except the ones in my head. And worried about what I'm going to say, worried about how everything's going to look, wondering if I have any right to say anything to anybody, all the usual stuff that a lot of people deal with, including a lot of people that make these videos for a living, so I know this is nothing new to anybody, but most of them don't wait a year before being able to post anything. I have, in fact, tried to do 2 or 3 videos, and neither one of them panned out. One of them was just a Christmas song. I was like my own rendition of one on a keyboard. I'm going to try it again this year. This will be maybe the 3rd year I've tried to make the song and post it online. Last year, after a considerable period of time, I gave up in disgust because I got it perfectly almost every time till the camera came on. And then one time I was almost all the way through it. And then like basically the last measure or two, I messed up and I never got anywhere near there again once the camera was still on. So I had to admit defeat eventually. It took a good, I don't know, couple weeks, but anyway. So here I am, tackling a couple of really lighthearted issues such as Halloween, Goth, Christianity, and appearances. You know, stuff that a bunch of us are really relaxed about, and there's no issues with any of those meshing together at all. But as for me, I tend to handle things a little bit, I guess I tend to speak deeply about things in my real life, and I intend on being as transparent here as anywhere. So, if you're interested, then 3 minutes already, good gracious. Okay, then let's proceed. So, I don't know if I can really say I am goth per se. I do dress in black often. I do listen to supposedly traditional goth things, such as Susie and the Banshees and The Cure and stuff like that, but it's not really something that can be easily categorizable. I mean, first off, the black is for mourning, but it's also wearing colors with it, which is a celebration of light and color, which is hard to explain to anybody. Yeah, I'm not going to edit out all the ums, I'm sorry. I have to just get it out. I'm done with one of my video editors. It just keeps erasing everything I do, so I can't edit it. And I don't know if I have time anyway. I have work and school and different things. Lots of things getting in the way of me doing this, and in the way of my songwriting. I am writing a song, an entire album based on my journey from seeker to Christian, and it's been a generation so far and counting. I'm nearly halfway done. More on that later. Anywho, in case anyone's interested in this, I've always loved classical music, including Bach. And I grew up on classical and, well, big band too, which I love, and jazz and stuff. And yes, I like disco. Yes, I like progressive rock. And yes, I adore Demon Hunter. I've seen a Rush concert. I've been to Rush three times. And I did miss their farewell tour, however, which was a real bummer. But I am still very lucky to have seen them 3 times. I also adore like indie Christian bands and artists such as Josh Garrels and Andrew Bell, and so that's somewhat the way my album's going to sound, but with very Psalms-like lyrics. So in case anybody's interested in that, they can go to my other channel at Meg Gold, and I will eventually be posting one of my original songs on there first, or at least part of it. I don't necessarily intend on making a living. I'm just being obedient to what God wants me to do, despite the fact that I don't think anybody's going to be interested in my autobiography and song, but maybe some people can relate to it. I mean, if God wants me to do it, I'm going to have to assume it's for a good reason, even though I'm not very good at that. But yeah, so I like old architecture, art, cemeteries. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but I do consume sugar, and a fair amount of it. I recently changed churches because I was pretty much ignored at my old church. I just kind of went there and sat and listened to a decent sermon, but I wasn't really part of a fellowship there. They wanted kind of a more normal looking congregation, I think. And whenever the pastor spoke of weirdos or something like that, I could kind of see him glancing in my direction, but he didn't really talk to me either, so I sort of eventually took the hint. I'm not sure anyone even noticed I'm gone, so the one I'm going to now tends to embrace uniqueness a little bit more. So I am grateful for that. So essentially, the Goth is sort of a subculture. It can embrace a lot of different things, but I sort of do more of a historical. No, not like the gods that invaded. I'm not that far back, but I am more of the influence of the Christian Catholic, architecture and the just the beauty and love, and wear lace and velvet, and I have an extensive doll collection. I sort of like transferred that to myself, and I feel better about this kind of style, this sort of aesthetic, because I can sort of celebrate who I am no matter what weight I am, no matter what age I am. I can enjoy my widow's peak and high forehead. It doesn't matter if I have a few wrinkles, which I do. It doesn't matter, it's just, my hair can be all bizarre, and, and I can enjoy it, this is who I actually am, instead of me fitting into a mold. I can kind of just embrace me and just kind of celebrate that. That's pretty much how this whole goth thing pans out for me. And also, it's, in a weird way, it's sort of like a celebration of Jesus being on the cross every day. For me, for my sin. It sort of helps me keep myself I guess, humble and reminding myself I'm a servant of His. Lately I've been telling myself that I'm not just His servant, but I'm His daughter. I'm to act as His general, which is being in a leadership role it feels natural to me, but in a sense it's also very difficult because being a leader without followers is sort of not the most fun thing in the world, and it's, who's ever heard of a general without soldiers? But I mean, my brother's gonna, he would come in at this point and call and say, oh yeah, she's totally built for this. She's as bossy as they come, and a know-it-all and a self-righteous, and so nothing like family to keep you in check. But I did things and through this this Goth medium that I didn't think I would do, including this hold on, let me see if I can do this. This is hilarious. Yeah, so this black thing here, in case you can't see it, is a tragus piercing. It's a cartilage piercing, and I got it on January 18th, a little bit after my birthday. And I went into the piercing studio, and I waited and waited, and I didn't have to because I was the only one there at the time, but I waited anyway, and I prayed, and I talked to the piercer. I asked him tons of questions, and people, when they did come in, I allowed them to go ahead of me, and they were in and out in like just a few minutes. And I opened my Bible, the Psalm, just so happened to go into Psalm 14, good gracious, 45 through 48, and about trusting God. So, I mean, he probably couldn't care less if I got this piercing or not, but he did care about me trusting him and not having fear. So I eventually did go through with it. I was absolutely terrified. Even then, I was like thinking of ways I could get out of the chair. And it did hurt. It 7 out of 10, for about 7 seconds. After that, it was, pretty good. Just sore when I used the phone. I figured out ways around that. So anyway, so I have 7 ear piercings in total. I'm not going to go all like gaugy and, poke holes in my face necessarily or anything like that. It's other people's preference. And, my brother's got gauges, so whatever. It's just not my thing. I don't have tattoos yet. I do intend on getting 5 or 6, all of them with Bible verses on it, and all of them my custom designs. But people don't have to get tattoos either. And this is sort of one of the controversies between the Goth and Bible scene, is that they will bring up Leviticus, and basically at the time it was like mostly tribal stuff, tribal and pagan stuff, and of course, God's not going to be for that. But it's like if it's for God and you don't feel conviction against doing that, I think in all things do things that honor God and bring Him glory, and that's what I plan on doing. I'm not going to describe each one of them yet. It's it's kind of time consuming, and I have a lot of ground to cover, and it's already been 14 minutes. So, so yeah. So I'm basically a child of God. I'm His general. I am to make the album. I'm to be a counselor of some sort, which I'm in school for, and even in my retail job, I'm supposed to help people in whatever way I'm called to do so. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. I carry this around with me all the time. It's just it says who God is. it reminds me all the time, and I repeat it to myself, and I make prayers about it, and Bible verses pop up, because this has some Bible verses in it as well. So the more I pray and the more I read the Bible, the more the verses come in, which has been very beneficial in more than one sense. So just a couple of excerpts is, "You are God, you are alive, you inhabit me, you are trustworthy, you count my hairs and capture my tears. You make beautiful things out of us, you are good, you save us, you transformed Paul. You're the God of miracles, you are the God of the impossible." Now obviously nothing's impossible with him, he just transforms the things that are already in existence, and statistical odds are always in his favor when it's his will. And some of the things that were his will was he saved 2 of my family members from falling from 2 and 3 stories about 20 years apart. The first one, there was no injury whatsoever, and the second one had some bruising on his tailbone and a few scratches. Landed on a tuft of grass, and that was it. Statistically, the odds are quite astronomical, not just for survival, but emerging nearly unscathed. And then recently, maybe 2 or 3 weeks back, somewhere in there, the night before, I had written song lyrics for one of my songs finally, and that morning when I was going out to work, I noticed that my side mirror was quite askew, so someone had ran into that at some point during the night or in the morning, and then the car would not start. So that's 2 separate issues, and so I was going to be going to the police to file a report for that, and I was waiting on my mechanic because I wanted to start my car because I didn't want to be late to work. So I was on the corner waiting for him to come in his truck when I was pacing back and forth because that's what I tend to do when I'm waiting, standing up, and then I hear a crash behind me. I turn around, and there are these 2 cars going in I want to say clockwise direction, but I don't honestly remember for some reason. But they are doing kind of a little ballet, about like that, and then they eventually separate. One of them lands on the main road. The other one crosses the sidewalk that I am on, and lands on the side street. So all of this happened maybe 3 feet from me, and the car that went across the sidewalk was closer than that, I believe. I did not get hurt at all. No debris touched me. Both of their windshields were intact. They were not injured at all, as far as I could tell. And yeah, so things like that do happen in my life. And I have other stories as well, but those are the 3 that stand out the most at the moment. And there are many other reasons why I believe as well. I always recommend Gary Habermas's minimal facts argument for the resurrection of Christ. I look at Christian apologists almost every day, kind of help keep me intellectually exercised in my faith, and all that sort of thing. But essentially, back to the Goth thing, it's the way I look at it too is that Jesus didn't dress the way a lot of churchgoers dress. He didn't look like an Avon salesperson or a businessman or anything like that. He was in dusty robes like everybody else was dressed in that area. He wore sandals or even barefoot, and he just wandered about. I mean, he had a purpose, but he would sleep on people's floors. He was not a haughty individual, even though he had every right to be, unlike the rest of us. So, any church that would not allow Jesus inside or would ignore him as he sat down is not a church I want to be at. I know you're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition. But my video, my rules. Anyways, let me see if I actually missed anything. Oh, Halloween. I do celebrate Halloween. That's a huge contention among Christians, especially, and even in the Goth Christian community. Not everybody celebrates it, and I understand that. If people want to pray during that time, they certainly can. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously, in my universe. The way I look at it, it's a really cool opportunity to not only scare a few folks, reasonably so, not go too overboard with it, but like in the treat bags, I can put in small versions of Bible verses and stuff like that. I don't have to go all crazy and do like full-on gospel tracts, and nothing from Chick Publications. That night's scary enough without that. But just like comforting stuff, like fear not, for the Lord is with you, and for God so loved the world, and just different things like that. So I think it's an opportunity, and Halloween is sort of a tradition in my family, just a way to connect. Also, my daughter identifies as a pagan, so of course I'm not going to celebrate it the same way she might, clearly. And even though it has elements of, paganism, it's got pagan roots and all of that. The day we celebrate Christmas, December 25th is not the day Jesus was born. That was the pagan holiday Saturnalia. So, but God can turn all of that around. And people that wouldn't normally go to church, we can bring the church to people. And that's really what we're supposed to do. Church isn't just supposed to be a building, it's supposed to be, Christian just means like little Christ. Like, we're not just, we're supposed to emulate and follow and, be like Christ, Christ-like as much as possible, regardless of the situation. So, Jesus hung out with tax collectors and all that kind of stuff. And, and some people would say that because he hung out with them, he approved of them, and he didn't judge them. But that's not really true either, because, he said to the woman caught in adultery, go forth and sin no more. It's like, I love you, but I don't love what you do. So there's a distinction there, and it's important to mention that. That's like none of us are going to be perfect. None of us are perfect. We all do things that are not pleasing to God, which is why Jesus came to begin with. One of the things that's going to be a recurring theme on the album that I'm going to put out is that I thought I was a Christian for quite a while before I actually became one. And it's not that I didn't try and do good things, try to be a good person. I've always tried to do that. But that wasn't really the point. I can't be good enough to be perfect, because no one is. I had to admit that Jesus wasn't just a good man. He was God as well, and he claimed to be in several key passages. He said, I am before Abraham was, I am. It's one of the reasons why people, gathered up stones to, to do him in right then. And that's one of the reasons why the Pharisees kept trying to catch him in traps and kept trying to find reasons to arrest him, basically, and why ultimately Jesus was on the cross and died. It's because they knew, the Jewish people certainly knew that exactly what he claimed to be. He did miracles on the Sabbath. He did all sorts of stuff that were considered a huge no-no in the Jewish community, and only God could give himself permission to do those things. So it was a big deal. And then, and the fact that Jesus was seen by many people after his death. They ate with him. That's a tough one to explain away, just as far as like hallucination or, the Romans, I believe, various people came out and said, the body was stolen, but all the guards not only fell asleep, but they didn't hear a huge rock being pushed away, and they didn't hear a bunch of people struggling with that and with the body and all that sort of thing. And then the people who were guarding the tomb, there was probably a penalty of death for anybody going in there that was not authorized. So it just seems extraordinarily unlikely, and the body never did show back up again, except to the people that claim they saw him alive afterwards. And the only thing that was in there, I think, were the burial shroud and possibly a couple of things of oil, because they kept the body smelling fresher with like oils and herbs of the time. So, anywho, so they're just different things that are going to go into the album that shows my spiritual growth, and things that may or may not be ever played on Christian radio for the same reasons of why I'm not allowed into all churches as I am, or at least accepted as I am. And that's just because this album's going to reflect who I am in Christ, who I am as a person, who he designed me to be. And it's kind of I'm sort of a nut in a lot of ways. And God loves me as I am, and and that's not a cop-out. I'm who I am in him, not just under my own power, under my own, with my own designs and rules and all that kind of stuff. I'm an avid Bible reader. I pray all the time, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, because I have to do that to function. And that's the depression, anxiety thing, that part of it. I haven't been formally diagnosed with anything, but I know I have some things, and some of it is related to my thyroid, medical things. And so I do my best to take care of myself. I'm not taking any medications for that. But I do take like vitamin B type stuff, lots of other supplements, and I should be taking more magnesium just because that really helps to calm things, and teas including lemon balm and bugleweed and motherwort and that sort of thing. I should be doing that every day, but I'm not doing that as much as I should. And some days it's a strange thing to be my own worst enemy in certain regards, because getting out of bed can feel like a monumental chore. Taking care of myself in certain aspects feels like a huge undertaking. Filling out forms or using the phone sometimes just feels really like a massive burden. Perhaps not as much as when I was a little bit younger in some ways, but it's still a huge challenge, and I can procrastinate for quite long periods of time, especially if it's a new thing. I used to feel really intimidated about retail, for goodness sake, like using a cash register, you know, I mean, just silly stuff. And now, you know, it's like old hat. I've been in retail for a long time. It's like, oh yeah, let's ring them up. Let's get them, you know. And then, yeah, I don't have much of a problem being there. It's kind of weird to almost view work as a relief and sort of fun in a way, even though it's not my life's ambition to do it. You know, it's still empowering, as weird as that sounds, to do retail, because it's something I know. It's familiar. It's part of my routine, and you know. But God is calling me to bigger and better things. So, and that's just what I aspire to do, is what He wants me to do, and I'm hoping that my heart aligns with His will more every day. So that's sort of my thing. If you have any questions, you know, I mean, feel free to ask in the comments. You know, I'm open to answering a lot of stuff. Not, you know, if I can't answer, I'm going to tell you that I can't, you know, for various reasons. Social media can get a little bit strange that way. But yeah, I mean, if you want to know what musical instruments I'm going to be playing, if you want to know my other channel, I'm going to try and put that in the description if I can remember. I'm going to try and have better lighting next time if I can. Yeah, if you have any ideas of something you want me to share for future videos, then feel free to leave that suggestion as well. I mean, I can't like cater entirely, because, you know, this is sort of like authentic, you know, genuine stuff, but you know, it's not really for show. It's not for like money, clearly. I mean, you know, doing videos once every 9 months or something is not going to bring home the bacon in any sense of the word. But it's, you know, it's something I feel called to do, you know, and I do want to kind of do sermons, not in a typical way, but I do want to kind of do that. But if you want to feel like inspired for, if you need encouragement about something, you know, and if you want me to kind of make a video about that, you know, I'm certainly happy to do that. You know, because we all really need to kind of stick together. We all need encouragement. You know, even if we don't agree on everything, you know, and I don't expect that you're going to agree with everything here. But that we can still speak civilly. We can still be buddies, one way or another anyway, online or whatever. We can still, you know, be just fellow human beings that are going through the struggle of life together, and there's something to that. There's something. I hope to be any kind of blessing to anybody, you know, really. That's what I want to do. Even though I still have the major inferiority complex or whatever it is, I want to put myself out there, and on the off chance that somebody needs to hear something, you know, really, some sort of hope, or just, you know, they need me to pray about something, or just whatever, that I'm here. I'm weird. Get used to it. Blessings.